What conspiracy theory do you believe 100%? Uesugi Kenshin, a Japanese daimyo, warlord, and one of the most powerful and cunning generals of his time. So much so, that he was considered an avatar of the god of war. Was actually a woman. Let's look at some evidence that supports this. 1. Kenshin had severe stomach cramps on a monthly basis. Around the 10th of the month, he actually scheduled his military campaigns around this. 2. Kenshin's cause of death is recorded as a form of uterine cancer by a doctor who made virtually no mistakes in the rest of the book that it's written in. 3. When the Uesugi were forced to relocate, they repeatedly took Kenshin's remains with them, and refused to tell even the shogun where he was interred. This rules out DNA testing. 4. Kenshin's personal tastes and appearance were consistently described in feminine terms, which, given the extreme subtleties of Japanese, is actually a bigger deal than it might seem. 5. Kenshin was the only man allowed by the shogun to wander among his harem. 6. Kenshin never married and never had children, although he did adopt. 7. He was described as beautiful with a very pale face and small features. Now the source for this theory is a pretty crazy historian. Forgot his name, but I believe it and it's pretty interesting to think about. Nice to see a new theory. The richest people in the world aren't interested in waving their dicks around the Forbes list. They don't want people to know how much money they have. Furthermore, everyone knows the most effective way to make money is to start with money, invest, and compound over time. Therefore, the richest people would not be entrepreneurs that started a company less than 20 years ago. They would be families that became wealthy a long time ago, say shortly after Napoleon's defeat. Then there's all those riches plundered by the Nazis. Where did all of that go? I have to assume that some of the very same families you're referring to would have been the ultimate beneficiaries of some of that on the basis of having the resources to move and store such wealth. Greater than where did all of that go? Switzerland. It's always Switzerland. Someone knows what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. I refuse to believe that nothing came up with modern technology, the huge search teams, and the time spent looking for its remains. There's a great video on YouTube about it. The whole thing does seem very strange, and maybe the parts of the plane they found were fake too. Cover up something sinister. Frederick Valentich too. They found his plane, but they have no idea what caused him to crash other than a creepy radio conversation he had with ATC about strange lights hovering above him. That Jeffrey Epstein was murdered to silence him and prevent further disclosure about the honeypot. He ran to get dirt on powerful men as a Mossad asset. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who killed Jeffrey Epstein. It could have been a hitman, a prison guard, or Jeffrey himself. What matters is that he died to protect a ring of powerful pedophiles who will face no consequences for their crimes. Yup, his accomplice and Mossad handler Ghislaine Maxwell hasn't been arrested. Les Wexner, who bankrolled the child sex trafficking with Braun Uffman, hasn't been arrested. They don't want to expose the truth. They want to bury it. That software updates are designed to make devices worse over time so that you upgrade. Women's small pockets and the purse industry. Not only small pockets but fake pockets. I have jeans where the front pockets aren't even real. Or pockets are so damn small, they have no purpose. I have a t-shirt with a tiny pocket on the left chest, it holds nothing. I believe that PETA is funded by the meat industry to make animal activists look like idiots. I could see the origins of PETA being that, but I believe the crazies moved in and took over, and now it's legitimately crazy. There's a bunch we'll never be told about the JFK assassination. I don't necessarily believe some of the accepted conspiracy theories, other than maybe there being a second gunman somewhere. I am just pretty sure it wasn't a lone wolf gunman that did 100% of it. If there was a conspiracy, it was that the CIA, FBI, whoever's job it is to know these things. Not Americans, and not sure. found out about it in advance and just let it go ahead and feign ignorance after the fact. Well, I'm not so sure about believing it 100%, but one I think could be onto something is that the most ridiculous conspiracies are made up to cover up more plausible and possibly true ones. When some idiot comes up to you and says the moon landings were faked, just look at him and say, "You believe in the moon?" Quote, "You joke. But there are actually people who don't believe in the moon. Many flat earthers think it's just a sticker on the dome." I wish I was kidding. That mattress firm is doing something weird. Edit. Mattress firm is some sort of giant money laundering scheme. They are fucking everywhere and always empty. I remember seeing 4 mattress firms all on each corner of an intersection once. There is no way there is such a demand for mattresses. Okay, so I walked into a mattress firm a couple of years ago to, of all things, buy a mattress. There was only one guy in the entire gigantic store, which seemed more like a lightly decorated warehouse than a store. And he seemed genuinely confused that I legitimately just wanted to try some mattresses, find one I liked, and buy it. It was possibly the most surreal purchase I've ever made. Good mattress though. Price was meh. Let's make this a little more interesting. Mattress firm's parent company Chillhop International has been the focus of investigations into numerous financial crimes, included a $7.4 billion accounting error. I will not be shocked to discover those places are part of a massive front. Actually, I've read up on this and it's actually pretty tame. Typically a mattress store will get a large investment to start and they buy mattresses wholesale. Now that markup from wholesale is insane. That $1,000 mattress they are selling they likely bought for under $100. To pay for rent they only have to make like 2 to 3 sales a month to cover all expenses. Location, rent, wages, utilities, and taxes. While any more sales a month will become instant profit. Plus they don't really restock. They operate on what stock they bought early on and just sell that till it's gone usually, and so they put up going out of business signs because in theory they are. Once they sell out they are done. TLDR, mattress stores have very low costs and extreme profit margins and can operate profitably on a few sales. That Facebook is collecting microphone data to advertise to us. It's a theory I've seen people mention several times and I always just brushed it off. I work in the tech industry and have learned most people aren't even all that aware of what they're doing on their own computers. I always assumed the suspicious advertising was coming from search history or cookies embedded in people's devices. I was over at a friend's house and I mentioned my throat was sore and I might be coming down with something. She had just been given a large box of emergency vitamin juice powder packets. We had a lengthy conversation about the packets and how she got them, monsieur. But until that moment it was a product I had never seen or heard of before. My phone was definitely on and in my hands during the conversation. I was sending information of where to meet up with someone for the next day. That conversation was over Messenger. I definitely didn't do any additional research into the emergency packets. By the time I got home that night, and for roughly 3 days afterwards, emergency packets were heavily advertised to me over Facebook. I haven't really seen them since, but they were certainly prevalent for a short period of time immediately after the verbal conversation. Definitely believe in this one. I remember one day in the car having a discussion with my brother and girlfriend about ground beef versus ground turkey. What do I find had come across my Facebook feed later that day? An advertisement for ground beef, of course. I know for a fact that I never did any searching online for ground beef around that time period. Either one. It was an insane coincidence that they randomly decided to advertise ground beef to me that day. 2. They're monitoring us through our microphones. Or 3. Their algorithms are so incredibly good that they can predict your future thoughts and discussions based on past, seemingly unrelated search data. I used to work in a warehouse. Now, we were in a smaller room in said warehouse. But you could hear forklifts driving and stuff. But we never made a mention of big equipment or things relating to a warehouse. Yet for months, my Facebook and Instagram ads were about me getting forklift certified. That some Redditors keep posting the same tired old questions in our AskReddit just for the karma. This deserves gold comments or Reddit admins trying to get people to buy gold. I don't believe the facts of government conspiracies, but I believe the government is 100% doing some shady shit around the world. That's not a conspiracy, it's a well-known fact that governments do shady shit around the world. I'm convinced the US government propagates crazy conspiracy theories. Area 51, Flat Earth, chemtrails etc. to make the shady shit they've done on record sound less plausible. There is a hairy naked man high on drugs and has been eluding skeptics as Bigfoot for years. You have some goddamn respect. He used to be a veterinarian until he got his license pulled after Ricky got arrested. That there are hot singles in my area, I personally know them. That there are mountain lions living wild in the forests on the East Coast states, but for some reason, the government won't officially acknowledge them. Monsieur, I have just read too many stories of hunters, hikers, and farmers who have seen them. Monsieur, one theory I saw was that the government doesn't want people to try and hunt them, so act like they aren't there. There are so many mountain lions on the West Coast, it never occurred to me that their existence elsewhere might be considered controversial. We East Coasters hunted the shit out of them back in the 19th century, when Penn State chose their mascot, Nittany Lions, a mountain lion. There were still lions in the mountains of Pennsylvania. Now it's like a legend of the past. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.